Hey folks, so today we're going to be discussing 5 similarities that Buddhism and Stoicism, ancient Stoicism, have in common, using partly a recent book out by Massimo Pigliucci. Coming right up. Hey folks, so I'm Doug Smith. I'm study director at the Secular Buddhist Association, that's secularbuddhism.org. And if you're interested in helping to try to make the world a more kind, wise, and less stress-filled place, consider subscribing to the channel. We'll have videos out like this roughly once or twice a week on Mondays, and if I can do it, another day a week, where we're going to be discussing issues of secular Buddhism, early Buddhism, and related philosophies such as Stoicism today. So today we're going to be discussing Stoicism and Buddhism using, in part, because I just finished reading it a little while ago, this book by Massimo Pigliucci called How to be a Stoic. Highly recommended. Massimo is a philosopher, very eminent philosopher actually, a really good philosopher. And he's basically trying to do with Stoicism what I and others are trying to do with Buddhism. That is, while we're trying to do a secular Buddhism, what he's trying to do is what we might call neo-stoicism. Stoicism, shorn of some of the more speculative, metaphysical, and ontological kinds of aspects that were in the original tradition. But today I want to discuss 5 similarities that I see between Buddhism and Stoicism. And here I'm talking about early Buddhism in particular. I mean, Buddhism is a huge topic, so we'll just stick to the earlier stuff. And we'll talk about the Stoicism that Massimo talks about in his book, a little bit about EPICTETUS' ENCHIRIDION, which is, Epictetus is one of the Stoics. Just as a background, Stoicism is an ancient Greek and Roman philosophy stemming from early centuries BCE up until the early centuries of the Common Era, so roughly contemporaneous with early Buddhism. So the similarities. First similarity, I would say, has to do with the goal. Both in Stoicism and in early Buddhism, there's a sense in which we want to bring ourselves to a state of equanimity under all circumstances. We find that in both traditions. Now, of course, in Buddhism, there's more to the goal than that, particularly in traditional Buddhism, but it is at the very least that, and certainly within this lifetime, that is a pretty good short definition of what it would be to be awakened. To be in a position where you are imperturbable, unable to be perturbed by outside or inside occurrences. Second similarity has to do with the method. We get ourselves to this position of equanimity through a long process of eliminating harmful greed, desire, hatred, anger, and ignorance. In both traditions, this is the case. Both traditions see greed as a problem. Both traditions see anger, hatred as a problem. Both traditions see ignorance as the deepest problem. The third similarity, I think, has to do with their orientation of the philosophy. That is, it's practice-oriented. It's not just about book learning. So in some kinds of philosophies, the whole point of the philosophy is to know certain facts, to know the correct facts. In both Stoicism and Buddhism, really the point is more about practice than it is about knowledge. I mean, of course, knowledge is critical, knowledge is crucial. In Buddhism, you have right view. In Stoicism, you have all kinds of knowledge about the world. But in both cases, what's, I think, really important about the philosophy is the practice. The fourth similarity is their ethical focus. Both of them see the real point of the philosophy as one of ethics, of finding the best sort of life to live, which was what ethics meant in ancient Greece and as well in ancient India, really. Now, of course, ethics is a Western term, so it's a little bit incongruous to use it in the context of ancient India, but you understand the point I'm making, I hope. The point is to act in ways that are kind to other people and kind to yourself, and that is going to get you the best sort of life in a broad understanding of what that might mean. And also, this has to do with what we can actually change. We can't change a lot of things, but we can certainly change our own ethical approach to behavior, to speech, and so on. And the fifth similarity, I think, between ancient Buddhism and Stoicism is that they're both pragmatic philosophies. Well, what both of them are philosophical, that the people involved with creating these systems and elaborating them were in a sense philosophers. They were interested in the theoretical aspects, but in neither case was it supposed to be philosophy for its own sake. This was not simply an idle kind of way of thinking. Instead, it was supposed to be a practical philosophy, a pragmatic philosophy. We did things because they worked. The philosophical system was arrived at because the people arriving at that philosophy believed that it was the most skillful way of approaching reality. So now in my next video, I will discuss 5 differences between Stoicism and Buddhism. But I think this is a good introduction in, and again, a very, very broad sense of the way that these two philosophies are similar. And I think if I can sort of editorialize for a minute, I think the similarities, certainly if you're anywhere along the path from the beginning through to almost the end, the similarities way outweigh the differences. And so there's a lot for secular Buddhists or even traditional Buddhists to learn from the Stoic material. And I think there's equally as much to learn from Stoics or neo-Stoics from the Buddhist material. And I don't think that we should be thinking of corralling ourselves with an aim. Instead, we should be looking for the kinds of beliefs and practices that make our lives better. I should also say that Massimo Pigliucci has a very nice video out, interview with Robert Wright, who wrote a recent book, Why Buddhism is True. So it's a discussion about Buddhism and Stoicism. And I'll link to it in the description down below. I don't think I can link to it here, but I'll try. If I can't, I'll just link to it down below. So anyway, that's an introduction to some of the similarities. I hope that was useful for you. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Glad you're here. Hope you'll check out some of the other videos. Talk a lot about early Buddhism, secular Buddhism, aspects of Buddhism generally, and related philosophies. So anyway, thanks for being here. Hope that was useful, and we'll catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.